Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another Chris Chan article where today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be following up from Chris's brand loyalty in the past. We are going to be following up with Chris's very unconventional approach to business generally. That is not my fault the frame got broken transaction. The envelope was clearly marked fragile and handled with care, so it was shipped well in a bubble envelope. Either you being trollish or the postal carriers are to blame for the frame's arriving condition. An example of Chris's customer service skills. To direct all blame, basically. See how well that goes for him in the real world. Chris launched an online business in June 2014, selling custom arts and crafts through eBay. A year later, he moved shop to Etsy. We'll probably discuss why shortly. Under a brand titled Quickville Shopping. He also began selling printed copies of Sonichu on Lulu. He held a steady stream of customers, despite issues with production and selling orders on time. For a while, he had achieved his dream of selling his own Sonichu merchandise, and was making plenty of money. However, exactly 2 years and 1 week after the start of his business, on the 8th of June 2016, Chris's infamous laziness caught up with him, and he was banned from Etsy for ignoring orders over a span of months beginning from when he bought a PlayStation 4. He did not take responsibility for the self-inflicted failure of his business. Instead, he lied to save face and cast blame on Lulu.com's staff for having stressed him out of labeling Sonichu as fanfiction and banning his account half a year beforehand in December 2016, even though he had actually ban evaded by opening a private account and was back to offering books through Lulu services only weeks later. After the Etsy ban, Chris fell back on begging and paid video requests to cover Bob's credit card bills and his expensive toy purchases. In May 2017, he felt like returning to work on the Sonichu comic and throughout the next several months began to rebuild his business, using Patreon, Lulu, and accepting interviews for money. And we're going to start with the list of ventures by type, storefronts. On the 1st of June 2014, Chris began cashing in on his internet infamy by offering custom artwork for sale. He later expanded his sales to include autographed photos, medallions, custom amiibos, and personal items related to Christory. This would be his most profitable and otherwise his most important commercial endeavor. Over the years, he would earn thousands of dollars by selling off Sonichu-themed memorabilia and sundries. The largest financial contributions were often made by aspiring weens to establish contact with Chris and put themselves in a friendly position. He would not always fulfill his orders, however, and after receiving an abysmal 85% satisfaction rate through customer services, his merchant account was suspended on the 16th of June 2019. Proposals to circumvent the ban through a partnership with Jacob Sockness were never implemented. On the 2nd of September 2015, Chris expanded his online business store to Etsy. He continued the same offerings from eBay and added a donation listing for the contribution of the Sonichu series. Days later, on the 5th of September, a YouTuber named DStex donated $1,000, thinking that Chris would deliver 100 pages of Sonichu. Chris completed 16 pages, before dropping the project entirely. This move remains controversial with Christorians, as while some believe that he honestly wanted Sonichu 11 to continue, others argue that this weenish move validated beginning in Chris's eyes, as seen with the influx of begging videos in the Financial crisis. In addition to DStex, dozens of fans had also donated. Chris simply claimed that he was too stressed to continue Sonichu number 11. I call that complete BS because if you intend to make any money of this whatsoever, Chris, you cannot fall back on that excuse. However, Chris still had a passion for making custom amiibos for several months afterwards. He took it seriously enough that he was willing to drive hundreds of miles through Virginia just to buy parts for amiibo stores to sell on Etsy. He wasted hundreds of dollars buying amiibos on eBay, thinking that the market for his custom figures would sustain itself indefinitely. This was not the case. and Chris eventually grew apathetic and bored with earning his own money. To complicate things further, Chris purchased a PlayStation 4 in March of 2016. The new life upgrade proved too distracting, and he ignored Etsy orders, often for months. Ultimately, Etsy took notice and banned his store from... Let me just do a little quick check on something there. 1 second. Never mind, it was just about an order. Self-publishing. Chris took over a decade to try any self-publishing channels. Clyde Cash beat him to the punch by posting Chris's Sonics on Lulu. Chris simply retorted by encouraging his fans not to buy them. Great convincing there, I must say. And to simply wait for him to release the real versions later. According to emails from 2010, Chris claimed that he was working on fixing up his pages to be published on Lulu, taking an unreasonable amount of time to accomplish this amazingly simple task. I was about to say, I could have probably taken a matter of minutes to do this, and he eventually dropped the project altogether. Undeterred, Chris began selling printed copies of the Sonic 2 comic on Lulu.com in September of 2015, as well as offering autographed versions through Etsy by ordering the comics from Lulu, signing them, then shipping to the buyers. In December of 2015, Chris was banned from Lulu for selling fanfiction. In true Chris fashion, he responded by threatening Lulu's executives with physical violence. Very, very mature. Despite the fact that he was on probation for an act of violence against a GameStop employee, which, if they had saw that, they would have almost certainly have thrown away the key with Chris. Chris was unable to continue selling comics in January of 2016. Probably rejoining Lulu under an altered name, he was discovered within a few months, and again his account was shut down. Deprived of other reliable avenues, Chris has torpidly sought other ways to sell his own works. He opened a shop on Redbubble, an online shopping company where users can sell custom printed items based on images of the seller's choice. On the 3rd of October 2017, selling pictures of himself pre-Tom Girl and drawings of himself on frame pictures, pillows and miniskirts, among other things. Much later, on the 23rd of November 2019, the spiritual successor to Chris's Etsy opened up as a new website under the same name, QuickvilleShopping.com. Here, Chris would offer his handmade trading cards for a My Little Pony theme game at extreme prices. And we're going to take a visit to Quickville Shopping itself. 1 second, I'll have to open up a separate tab altogether. 1 second, boys. Let's see. I am moving the shop to Etsy Quickville. I know what I have to do. I have to go to Twitter to do this, to find his store, because I believe he has left a link. Twitter, here we go. Right, 1 second, guys. This isn't going to take but a moment. Quickville Shopping, here we go. Page not found, meaning that I think the page, it must have been taken down. Yep, it must have been taken down. That's quite interesting. Anyway, I suppose that's that then. On his handmade, in case you were wondering, he was selling them for very nearly hundreds, if not for nearly $1,000 for like a pack of, like, what was it, like 10 packs of trading cards for $1,000. And if you've seen the artwork themselves, then, well, actually, I'll tell you what, I'll click on Quickville Shopping anyway, just to give you an idea of the prices. It should be listed here. Okay, 1 deck of trading cards with Chris's own artwork, and for anyone familiar with Chris's own artwork, you'll know exactly what the problem is. $67 for 1 deck. You know, a standard deck of Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading cards costs, I think, about $11 for a starter deck, which is much better value. Contains 172 cards of the finest electric, so you would say that maybe that justifies the price, but the artwork certainly does not. Then there's the expansion pack. This one, $26 with custom tuck-in box, $15 wrapped in shrink wrap, so $41 for an expansion, which seems a little bit much. Then there's another expansion pack, 40 cards in this one, $36 with 21 custom, so it's even more again. You're talking into $57. Then there's also an expansion pack that the cards are not even properly drawn or even colored. You're talking once again $41 for stuff that doesn't even have color. And then there is also another expansion pack, $30 for 19, so $49 for this. Another expansion pack, 31, so again we're pushing that up to $57. Then there's also another expansion pack, $41 and $25, so that's again $66. Oh, we're getting there, ladies and gentlemen, don't worry. $36 for another $22 for this is the front for just 40 cards. So what is that? That's again $58. Another one for what's this, like $58. You also get this massive one of promo cards, which is just 18 cards for $15. You get 18 cards for $50 is, for what's essentially stolen assets, is nowhere near close to the original asking what anyone should get. Another expansion pack, same as before, $57 for, how many is there this time? 45 cards for $57. Doesn't sound worth it. Then there's the Sonotube box bundle, $330 and $220 stripped in shrink, 500 cards, 540 card box still included. You can get that for $550. That's insane. $58, $57 for basically just Chris stealing other people's artwork. So that's theft. You're paying for theft. More stuff done on commission. Another again, $57, and that's, and also I think there's also like, this is what the comics come to if you sell them. 120 in bulk, 120. I'm sort of gonna go down to find out exactly what the biggest one is. Singular, $170 for bulk, 170. There's a lot of stuff. NSFW for $200. Trying to sell porn for $200, which is about $201 more than it's actually worth. 200, 130. Now there's other stuff. $36, 25, 30 sold out. You can get all of those, ladies and gentlemen, as per nobody asked in the first place, and nobody has got that amount of money to waste. If you buy stuff from Chris, you're admitting to yourself that you are indeed wasted. Your money is wasted on you. And so is Chris, so maybe you two would get along fine by buying that stuff. I wouldn't even like turn my nose in the direction of prices like that. That's ridiculous. Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and where were we? Commissioning. In December 2015, the singularity happened. On Etsy, Chris offered to create a personalized video message for anyone who paid $50. Many of his fans took him up on the offer, thinking they could become part of Christery by simply handing their money over to him. He received 4 sales within the first 3 days. $200 is not a bad price to pay, although those customers opted for their videos to be unlisted. A few people also chose public videos for their birthday shoutouts. Okay, that's kind of fair enough. After losing his Etsy shop, Chris continued offering video requests through text messages. These videos Chris delivers are categorized as lazy. He has often been late on delivering, missing deadlines for birthday greetings despite having an abundance of free time. sloppiness, Chris chooses not to edit his takes or look presentable. He has delivered a video featuring an upskirt shot of his maxi pad. Explicitly stating that the content is boring. In many videos, Chris has mentioned his low opinion of his customers, saying things like, whatever, and wow, that's just crazy, that's just, I feel like it's weird, whatever, while rolling his eyes. Filling up paid content with the drivel of off-topic rambling. Despite the fact that his videos are advertised as around a minute in length, on average, but can be longer in time length. In spite of these issues, he has a continuing stream of customers. A Kiwi Farms user named Vanilla Cone summed up the mindset of a lot of his review of the $50 paid video he ordered from Chris, which considered of him being late, babbling to fill up time, failing to spell the recipient's name correctly, and delivering a video 39 seconds long out of the minimum 1 minute. You know what, Chris? I'll say this right now. How hard could it have been for you to have at least looked like you gave a shit? Especially because you needed the money. I just suspect you would have taken this a little bit more seriously than you did. Also, charging 50 quid? That's ridiculous. You know what I would have done, ladies and gentlemen? I'm guessing no one should ever really tell Chris about, Cameo and stuff like that. But if I get to the point where I become worthy, I suppose, to be featured on Cameo, you know how much I would charge? $1 or £1 or €1, exchange rates and all that. I would pay $1 whole if you wanted me to talk to you. You can talk to me pretty much any time through, Instagram or even Twitter for that matter. But just for the sake of it, feel free to just drop me something and I'll get back to you. It's simple as that. And I can make it look 10 times more presentable and look as if I gave more effort than Chris could ever imagine. And remember, Chris considers himself a caring individual, but he fails in every single aspect. To be honest, I got what I expected out of the video, and money well spent in my opinion. Are you sure about that? Chris joined Patreon on the 30th of November 2016 as a response to pressure from the financial crisis. He initially set up to beg for money, claiming that he would produce more Sonaju comics if his fans paid off his mortgage and bills. Well, actually, I'll tell you what, I've got an idea. Let me open up Patreon right now. Hold on. Here it is. Found his Patreon, and this is exactly 13 patrons, and he gets $100 a month. That's a lot less than the last time I checked, anyway. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I want to just present you to this. Okay, this is Chris's Patreon, creating Sonic Chew and Rose Chew official comic books and products. This is the tier system. $1, no perks, but I will be very thankful for your continued patronage. $1 and you get nothing. $2, nothing. $3, nothing. He has 13 patrons, bear in mind, $100 a month. He's going to be lucky if he gets anything else, and nothing for 4 tiers. He couldn't even be bothered to write in a tier, or for $6 or $8, but he can. So the minimum you get if you donate to him at all is $10, and my most grateful thanks for this premium support. First level perk is preview peeks at the individual pages of my book, a few at a time before final publishing. Thank you. So that's just for $10. 20 is book of the month, 50, and there's a $500, which is the most you get. Not that he's ever managed to update this, because I just want to show you this, guys. This is basically the last time he's really sort of like updated his Patreon. It's, what is it right now? Pre-sale of Sonic, the November 24th, 2019. That's the last time he updated this. And if we go to the comments, this sort of be funny. Well, let's just see if So are others not receiving their comments? Oh, do Patreons get one for free, or at least a comic? I hope so. I love the comic. I might send out promo cards. You probably shouldn't say might, Chris. You have to either say you are or not. Bruh, I hope this is a fucking joke. Christine, if you don't intend to do the rewards listed on your Patreon page, you need to change them. And notify your patrons before these changes go into effect. I run a Patreon focused on my illustrations. But if I decide to change my focus to animations, then I can't just do that. And keep my previous rewards intact and unfullified. YouTube user Jordan Underneath did something similar with his Patreon, as he changed his focus from game reviews to original short films, and let his patrons know weeks in advance before changing his rewards, tiers, etc, etc. If you want to start focusing on brony content, that's fine, but your Patreon page needs to reflect that you need to give Yaochio the rewards you promised. Or else, you're false advertising, which is illegal. And Patreon will remove your page, which means losing it as a form of income, just like your eBay and Etsy. If you want help, then I can help you. I don't mind helping out fellow artists in my field, but you're acting like a child by ignoring your patron's concerns and any realistic advice. So while others not receiving their comics, etc., I paid for this guy to get a signed copy as a birthday present. And now I feel like I'm being scammed here. I messaged Christine days ago, and she hasn't responded since, but I know she's active on her YouTube. If anyone else isn't receiving the rewards posted, let me know so I can file a complaint and get my money back. Thank you, heart. Just going by comments, I don't think anyone has actually gotten their rewards. That's not good, Chris. That's really not good. Anyway, he initially set up to beg for money, claiming that he would produce more Sonic comics if his fans paid off his mortgage and bills, because Chris cannot be bothered to do that himself. He has met with low support levels, generally below $40 per month. This suddenly changed around June 2017, picking up momentum after resuming the Sonic comic of his own volition in May. He revamped his Patreon to offer more reasonable support tiers for fans. I'm not sure if he did, because we've just seen that. He has enjoyed a significant uptick in support due to his continued work on the comic, earning around $500 to $600 per month, as his interest in his own comic has abated, and new pages more rarely released. Patreon support has shriveled to about a third of its peak, reforming his backer awards by distinguishing different tiers for every dollar level given have not improved his steady decline in support. Miscellaneous affairs. In May 2016, Chris displayed a level of financial ignorance that shatters any hope of him ever becoming competent with money. I mean, he's never been competent with money, so what's different? Days after begging for donations to assist for his ailing household, he announced that he would be starting his own business, with the declaration that each employee's salary would be 25% of the profit. Naturally, Chris completely fails to realize that under these conditions, he would have no money at all if he had 4 or more employees. However, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Days later, he uploaded a video attempting to go into business with Sega to create official Sonic 2 products. In the video, he demands a 6-figure salary along with full insurance benefits and maternity leave. Actually, you know what? I'm going to find out whether or not, yes, we can. We can actually watch his quote-unquote proposition to Sega. Is a video made on the 14th of May 2016. The video itself is of Chris offering Sega to hold a small amount of control over his creation. You know what? I think it's better if we just watch this and talk later.
So let's skip the introductions and get right down to business. You want what I got? But you gotta go through...
I'm gonna have to turn this up first. Okay, now we could go.
So let's skip the introductions and get right down to business. You want what I got? But you gotta go through me and me alone, Christine Weston Chandler, Ruckersville, Virginia, in order to get. And lucky for you, I am open to such an offer of partnership. I would offer you license to my original creation, Sachi and Rose Chew in the city of Quickville, as well as the world. Yeah, the world and all that. Partnership would come with certain prerequisites. I would remain in creative control of Sonichu and all associated media. I will be the sole owner of Sonichu. Sega's role here would be to expand the Saichu brand name as well as Roadshoe, and will help produce the various media, including video games, cartoons. These profits would be shared 50% between the two parties. However, I would also need an annual salary and some common employment benefits. My salary for being in the senior management position of the Saichu product at Sega would be $100,000 a year. I would require a senior title and a preferably corner office, even though I would be working at home. I would also need employees under me to assist with the administrative and creative sides of my Saichu project. But we will get to those later. Due to my hectic lifestyle, I would need the ability to work from home and when I choose. Also, basic benefits.
Okay, so what I've gathered so far, Chris's quote-unquote demands, let's call them demands, not propositions, is that he works from home, gets the sole title, he gets paid $100,000, he splits it between him and Sega, which I'm not entirely sure how that works, and apparently Chris says his lifestyle is so hectic that he has to work from home. Meaning, what Chris is basically saying in this video is that he demands Sega pays him for continuing to act pretty much the same as before. I'm saying this because that's the tone this video gives off, because Chris, look at this room, ladies and gentlemen. And the way it's laid out, or the fact that Chris has yet to make eye contact, it illustrates very clearly that Chris has one priority, and that's just to get as much money as he possibly can, regardless of how he looks. I mean, let's just continue and I'm going to call these demands, not offers, because that's what Chris pretty much portrays them as.
It's like 401k, health insurance, and maternity leave. Now, let's get down to my immediate step. Due to the normal stresses of everyday life and then some, and since Saichu is not my only responsibility in my life, I require a secretary to handle administrative duties beneath my pay grade, and a personal assistant who would assist me with my daily tasks, which would typically include the following: running errands, picking up lunch, breakfast, dinner, pet sitting my dogs when I'm on business travel,
How can you have business travel, Chris, if you're only working exclusively at home? Describe to me exactly how that works.
Getting maintenance on the cars and whatever else required therein. Help on taking care of my aging mother, as well as complete in-store pickup of items that I would purchase. I would want to be in charge of selecting the women for these positions myself. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk.
Notice how he says women, and he is... Well, I'd say he's very indifferent to, having a male assistant. Yeah.
About Saichu with the Saichu media. I would like you to assist with developing. I would want to be. Yeah, I already said that. I want Saichu to be as huge as he deserves to be. It's about the high time Saichu got his own video game so that everyone can live his adventures. I would like to oversee the development team that would create my vision of the Saichu video game. I would personally test and critique the latest versions of the software until I'm satisfied with the finished product. I would also like you to use your negotiations with Nintendo to have the cast of Saichu, as well as myself, add to the existing amiibo figure library. I would also need you to help me create several animated Saichu products. The first and most important of which would be an American version cartoon series. And I would like it to be made by DH.
Chris, let me explain this to you very, very simply. Unless Sonichu becomes successful, there isn't going to be any animated series. There needs to be a demand for a Sonichu. There's reasons why... Oh, God. Chris, let me explain something very very basic to you. I'm going to what I'm going to do one of these days. I'm going to do a very very big production video of exactly why Sonichu, from a business perspective, would never ever work. From a marketing perspective, why he would never ever work, and from an animated angle, it would never work. And even that there's a lot of things I want to discuss regarding Sonichu itself, because I want to go through the entire thing in detail, because there is no way, even if somebody really wanted to, or any studio was crazy enough, there's no way that this would come to fruition, and I'll explain why in a future video.
Jess, who makes the little show called My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. I'm sure you probably heard of that. And I would personally voice the characters of Sonichu as well as myself. I would like also to have Tara Strong and Monica Rial to voice female characters as well. The art style should be more serious in tone, though, similar to Sonic X, or like similar anime of that type. Right.
Why does he sigh so much? Even when he's... Oh, God. Guys, if I had all the time in the world, I would... Listen, guys, if I was to make a video about every single thing wrong with this proposition, we would be here for very nearly 3 hours. And I might even just be stupid enough to make a video like that anyway. Because I really, really want to emphasize exactly what you are supposed to and what you are not to do. I'm saying this from the bottom of my heart because I've been in this position before where I've had to propose ideas to a company. But there are very, very important things you have to understand about what to do before you go ahead and do this. And Chris doesn't know anything at all about business.
For the Japanese market, I would like there to be a Sonichu anime as well, similar to the production of the popular animes. And there could be something for the adult market as well. And I also like a staff site to design and market a bunch of simple Sonichu merchandise such as t-shirts, mugs, hats, lunchboxes, and other novelty items. My fans need the Sonichu product and the gear. I would especially love to partner with a footwear company to make the actual footwear that Sonichu and Rosechu wear. And I look forward to your immediate prompt reply to my offer. Together, let's make Sonichu great again. Thank you very much.
Okay, whatever. You know what? Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, in the future, you are going to see a fully extensive video because I want to make people understand that there's very serious problems with Chris's approach. Very, very serious, that no company in the world would take a chance. On the 24th of November 2016, Chris asked his audience to watch a clip of him playing Skylanders by uploading Quick vs. Chaos, in order to promote the idea of selling his in-game figure to them using the game's Skylanders creation app. He would charge $20 extra for his autograph. He also said, "I am not sharing my creation app chirp," since this would allow people to order directly from Skylanders and cut off Chris's goal of profiteering from his self-image. On the 12th of January 2017, Chris uploaded Skylanders Imaginators leader Christine W. Chandler, random review and stuff, as an hour-and-a-half advertising video, showing off multiple Skylanders products he had ordered. A $15 card and $30 t-shirt and a $50 3D doll, all emblazoned with his avatar image, totaling at least $90. Chris's largest business failure to date followed soon afterwards. Various Skylander avatars products and a Sonichu figure were announced as prizes for a raffle Chris had conceived, to push sales of his stamps. Slated to run from the 27th of March through 31st of April 2017. The cost of entry was buying one of Bob's stamps or Chris's stamp album on eBay, with a limit of 1 entry per buyer. Initially, Chris announced that the winner would receive a Sonju figure and a Skylanders figure, and 15 runners-up would each receive a Skylanders card. A week later, he added more prizes to the mix: Skylanders t-shirts, which basically means that you would win an awful lot than Chris could afford to pay out. Chris seemed to be banking on the $1,000 album selling, as it was the only scenario in which he could have shown any profit from the raffle. He promised an automatic win of a set of all 3 prizes. His expenditure for the raffle prizes totaled $840. No one bought the album, and less than 15 people participated in the raffle, although a mass buyer had purchased 18 stamps. He was left with a negative profit of $674.24. In December 2020, Chris teamed up with Creator to produce more Sonichu medallions. The medallions are not created by Chris, but he supposedly oversees the design and production of the medallions. The medallions are of noticeably worse quality than those created by Chris, but that hasn't stopped the team from selling over 130 medallions as of the 14th of December 2020. The jointly owned Etsy page can be found here. We're just going to take a very quick look at this before we... No items listed. I wonder... I don't know whether or not this means that there's nothing sold, but... Or just nothing, By the way, this is the quality. And look, 7 people have this in their basket. Yeah, I'm going to assume that just... Something not run by Chris is probably the best idea for this.
Hiya, Jen.
Hello. Simultaneously the worst... Not yet. Simultaneously the worst and greatest thing I own. Bravo. Yeah, I think we could just say that for the very much. Abortive ventures. In November 2015, Chris announced that he would be setting up a shop on Zazzle.com. He mentioned it again half a year later in June 2016. No progress was made, and to this day, Chris has never opened a Zazzle shop. Why he dragged his feet so much is unknown. Zazzle takes care of manufacturing and shipping, and there are no startup costs. All he would have to do is take some Sonichu drawings and upload them. Because Chris is lazy, that's why. In October 2017, amid being the subject of interviews by Merryweather, Sachumo, and Copper Cab, Chris announced that he was open to being a guest on more interviews for payment. Although he didn't specify his going rate, Merryweathery mentioned that Chris had asked him for $200. He has since given interviews for free, taking the bend out of his potential scheme. Customers and their reasons for buying. That's a good point. A piece of valuable internet culture, a potential buyer on Chris's comics. While many who follow Chris refuse to give him money and shun those who do, buyers seem to regard Chris memorabilia as pieces of internet culture that might become valuable over time. A February 29 video in which a customer unboxed a Sonichu issue 0 comic printed from Lulu attracted over 100,000 views, and many commentators expressed a desire to buy for themselves. Ironically, the resulting bump in Chris's Patreon gave him so many orders to fulfill that he crashed into slumber and simply ignored the backlog of orders. For anyone else, that would seem almost like Christmas coming early this year, but no. Apparently, that's just too much for Chris to ask or to handle. Potential customers mull over buying Chris's comics on Patreon. Let's just see this. For $20, that's pretty good. A piece of internet history. I don't think about it that way, but yes, I guess that's a good conversation starter. Dude, I'd give $20 for that. I have a feeling these will be worth a lot someday. 100 years, he will be an abnormal legend. I agree. $20. Okay, right, that's... the Red Sterling McBay says, all that costs is $20. I'm gonna get my piece of Chris tree before he goes up to the great big Quickville in the sky. I'm not even being mean either. Every well-known artist's works becomes more valuable once they die. Well, yes, that's true, but we'll see exactly how much when the time comes. Ad revenue. When he was uploading his Sonichu comic pages to the Wikipedia in 2009, the thought of monetizing his webcomic didn't cross his mind. People who had been annoying, nay, harassing him with advertising he didn't approve of. Yet, when he attempted to replace these offensive ads with ads of his own, he simply put some random adverts on his webpage without actually signing any sort of advertisement contract. The ads didn't make him any money. There are several advertising programs that allow individual people to put ads of their personal pages and make money out of them. Some of these programs are even specifically geared toward webcomic artists. Many webcomics have a donation box where readers can donate money to the artist via PayPal or similar services. In 2016, Chris monetized his YouTube channel and added a support button, ostensibly to accept donations for Sonichu projects. Even though he didn't want to work on that, no surprise there, and for a year, YouTube simply became another platform for which he could beg for money. It took a while for Chris to start to try drawing on camera in live drawing streams, and even then he hasn't demonstrated it too often, and has done an extremely poor job of it. He simply sits in front of his PS4 camera, which is hard-coded to only record in flipped mirror mode, and is positioned so that viewers see an upside-down video set at a dizzying angle. Schedule slip. Most webcomics have a set schedule. Some update weekly, some many times a week, some daily. Some webcomics update whether the hell the artists get inspired enough to draw a comic, and probably reserve a whole form for people who whine about lack of updates. Most webcomic artists that update the comic 3 times a week consider that schedule very demanding, and webcomics that update daily usually generate revenue of some sort. Ads, donations, print versions, merchandise, what have you, allowing the artists treat their comics like a full-day job. These are called self-sufficient webcomics, for example, Penny Arcade, XKCD, questionable content. Chris has thoroughly embraced the point of view that the comic shouldn't have a set schedule and inspiration doesn't have a deadline. How wrong he is. While also promising us that the comic would be updated daily. On the 14th of November 2009, Chris promised that the comic would be updated daily, and he managed to fulfill this promise for a while. By the end of Sonichu number 10, Chris was already placing author substitutes in the story, telling people to quit whining about the lack of updates. This is obviously not a question of punctuality, but hypocrisy. Chris would avoid a lot of drama if he just admitted that there's no set schedule at all whatsoever. If one does consider this a question of punctuality, it doesn't look too good. Chris also tends to update in spurts in attempt to make up for missed days. This can range anywhere from 3 to 20 pages a time. Most professional web cartoonists have a buffer of guest comics so they can avoid this sort of thing, but the thought of doing so has apparently never entered Chris's autistic mind, which more or less demonstrates that Chris doesn't take, he doesn't take the idea of what industry he's wanting to enter into anything serious or anything genuine whatsoever. The same mindset also pervades every other aspect of his business, namely that Chris will procrastinate on shipping orders. A key example is how he almost fucked up the Sonic Totem sale. He received $1,500 for it, immediately wasted much of his profit on bling and failed to ship it to the buyer on time, saying that he had run out of money to pay for mailing it, and only got around to having his mother scrounge up the cash to do so after the buyer filed a PayPal dispute. He also lost his Etsy shop as a direct result of his poor work ethic. I wouldn't even know what it's like to be Chris at this point, because I could not think of anything more lazy in my life. Pipe dreams. When do you want Nintendo and Sega to talk to me to evolve Sonichu and Roastu more realistically? Now! Chris demanding that multinational corporations take orders from a nobody. Yeah, that's true. Chris has had numerous aspirations to work in creative industries. However, he knows next to nothing about them. He will not begin to realize the the enormous implications about what it means to work in those businesses, such as meeting deadlines from editors, being hounded and harassed by members of staff, probably most likely more editors. There's a great manga series, I think it's called Bakuman. It's about the creative team that basically gave us Death Note, about two guys who decide they want to almost drop out of school and work to become manga artists, whilst, you know, they have friends around them who want to become voice actresses, and there's a lot of very fierce competition, especially in Japan, in regards to the manga business. There's an equally amount of very tough love, especially when it comes to US publications. Marvel and DC have deadlines that almost ostensibly would make any sort of attempt at socializing in the real world almost difficult. EA are possibly the most notorious about this because their practices are not entirely legal by laws or even conditions set up by union traders, well, trade unionists. One of the best examples out there is being of the notorious developmental hell history of the video game L.A. Noire, in which there was a team in Australia who were working 7 days a week, were not getting paid to work on Sundays, worked anything between 10 to 14 hours a day, and were hideously underpaid for their work. I'm saying these things, ladies and gentlemen, because if Chris had any desire whatsoever to know about how serious he is, then he would have done. He would have understood exactly the serious implications, despite the fact that, you know, Chris's criminal history, his homophobic remarks, his racist remarks, his misogyny, and his work ethic that is beyond disgraceful, in my opinion. So, how on earth is any publication going to possibly accept it? What could they find in Solitude that is not only legally a minefield of problems, but also one that is associated with something that's going to give them a very bad name? However, for reasons best known to himself, he elects not to find out how these industries actually work. There you go. Which is quite strange. One would assume that a person seeking a career in the industries would at least take some effort to find out how said industries work. Like that short spiel I just gave. I found out myself, and I was almost horrified to know about the world that I was getting myself into. And that hasn't necessarily devolved me from wanting to get back into it, but trust me, there are some very, very sketchy things about the industry, like the animation industry I was gonna get myself into, because, well, there's very, very notorious instances within the industry. Like that's a topic for another day anyway, but that's a very good point in itself. Official publication. In the Solitude Chronicles and Chris's resume, it's revealed that Chris is under the impression that his art just isn't good enough, but professional quality. Okay. Compared to what, Chris? And then he aspires to get his comics and video game businesses. This resume reveals his widely varied skills, which both pens and crayons, and his desire to work as an artist for a professional comic company, such as RV Comics or Marvel, creating his Solitude comics. There is no word on whether or not he actually submitted anything to these companies, or if they replied. They never would, if they did. Unfortunately for Chris, the publishing industry doesn't work this way, exactly, especially not in the case of original creations. In the case of original work, the publishers expect complete works to be submitted to them, usually through an agent. An agent's job is to separate the wheat from the chaff, and find the correct publisher for the work, taking a small percentage of the eventual profit for their reward. Exactly. If the publishers take unsolicited submissions, they have to sift through a gigantic backlog, often called a slush pile, of submissions of highly varying quality, most of which would end up rejected multiple times before there will be a publisher with the right market in mind and the right publication schedule to allow the publication deal to go forward. The whole process can take years in the case of just a single work or a single issue of Sonichu. Even PAL Comics, for example, would struggle to work out what the appeal or what the demographic is. And PAL Comics is notorious for making adult-oriented comics for the internet. And they have a very notorious reputation themselves, but even they would think twice before allowing Chris to put his own work, especially in comparison to the quality of their work anyway. So, no, that would... No, I don't know if or not the thought ever crossed Chris's mind about that, but no, not even they would be willing to accept this. If comic book publishers have salaried artists, they usually need to have a portfolio of previous work, usually work that has already been published commercially, or if the comic house is particularly lenient, and most big names aren't, there has to be evidence of a successfully self-published high-quality comic. And even in this case, these artists usually only work on characters and plot lines that come from inside the house. It can take time before the artist is in any position to present their own ideas for comics, or use their original characters. Even if he were able to stick in a company for a long time, he'd still need to improve his communication skills a lot to, an editor, an artist, etc., etc. If the Sonichu Chronicles PowerPoint and various phone conversations are of any indication, he's unable to persuade his superiors that his ideas are worth working on. Mostly, and this is where the very serious matter of Chris's stories, as far as a writer is concerned, is brought into play. Because no authentic publishing house, no matter which one you go to, whether it's Archie or PAL Comics, they'll simply just look at a page that is just a wall of text and they realize that this isn't a comic book at all. It's basically just a book with some drawings in it of basically ripped off characters. And even if it was meant as a parody that Chris is inevitably keep on making, he does not seem to, cross out any cross-referencing to characters that originally existed and refusing to scratch out names, not to mention other characters he blatantly stole, like Simon Chu. Meanwhile, you would have to find a very specific... I mean, I'll give you guys a very specific example. Let me see. I know that... one second. Let me just... I need to find... There's a very specific thing I need to find. I think it's something... I think it's called something like the Insidious Alan Moore, but I'll have to look at it very, very specific, like a very specific sort of thing. Let's see if I can just get this into a full image. Hopefully there isn't anything right here. Well, okay, that's quite a funny one, but it's not quite what I'm after. Oh, okay, I guess I'll try this one again. Hopefully there's a full image of this. Ah, here it is. Please take into consideration this, for example, ladies and gentlemen. This right here is a parody of the works of Alan Moore. I can't necessarily find the issue that is in color, but there is a comic out there that parodies the life of Alan Moore, utilizing his style in his 1988 work. I think it was either 88 or 87 work, Watchmen. And note the dialogue and the depiction of Alan Moore. He seems to me only gentlemanly thing to do. This is in reference to the League of Gentlemen, also worked on by Alan Moore. Of course, there are some critical questions involved. One as the bride just fallen over, as it were. If so, is 4 perhaps a tribute to the bride's choice of impact or bridal footwear? Right. If this is indeed the case, then I should think it wise in a reversal of Cinderella archetype to endeavour to remove metaphorical pride footwear prior to raising her up. In the interest of miming the risk of, I know he comes from Northampton, but I can't do the voice. At least I think Alan Moore comes from Northampton. In the interest of miming the risk of some recurrent bridal tumble or oof. And it's basically just Alan Moore bored out of his mind trying to, I don't even know what he's trying to do. Is he trying to like make a cigarette out of this? I think the point is that why this is parody and Sonichu isn't, is that this mocks in some very slight way Alan Moore's style of putting so much text on screen that he's just talking nonsense. This is basically just white noise to the audience, but there are some parts of Watchmen where there's so much to dig in that it's kind of like going through a novel in many ways. But the fact is that this is the depiction of, I think they took like the art style from Alan Moore's comic book From Hell, which is about Jack the Ripper, and they just made it look as if Alan Moore has just had a stroke. And the way they designed of just him looking confused, his hair is completely grown all over the place, and basically the editors are just going right, just agreeing with Alan Moore instinctively because they know this is the sort of thing that he's done previously but has sold. But then again, this is the author perhaps just pointing out how kind of ridiculous his mindset is, but he goes with it. Now that works as parody because it's slightly poking fun of the fact of Alan Moore's creative process and the things that have actually managed to make its way into publication. Chris doesn't do anything quite like that. He doesn't make any subtle jokes. He doesn't like Chris. If Sonichu was a parody, it would be Scary Movie 5. So unfunny, devoid of anything really clever or anything like that. It's just white noise, and then the end of the credits. That's what Sonichu is like. It's just white noise. Unlike the wicked Alan Moore or something, I think that's what it's called anyway. But you see how that works in many ways. If the Sonichu Chronicles PowerPoint and various phone conversations are any indication, he's unable to persuade his superiors that his ideas are worth working on. In short, Chris is deluded if he thinks that any company, whatever, will just pick him up and tell him to work on Sonichu comics. Even if Chris does get it, there's also the problem with scheduling. Among other things, most comics are worked on far in advance, thus allowing for any changes concerning a book, such as plot problems, character availability, changes, or even cancellations. Even so, many of them maintain a certain schedule, either monthly or bi-monthly. In fact, even as we are speaking right now, you know how Marvel plan out the Marvel Cinematic Universe by saying something like, I don't know, WandaVision Season 10 will probably already be in. But then again, something like Season 2 will probably already be in works. It will probably... They might be done the last episode of Season 2 of WandaVision if they decide to bring it back. And they'll probably be going over the drafts right now as we speak. They are plotting out movies far beyond Phase 4 of the cinematic universe, possibly into, let's say, 5 or 6, depending how far they want to make or what else they can write about. They'll probably be making stuff like an actual apocalypse movie for the X-Men when they bring them into the MCU. Probably a Galactus issue where they have, well, by that time they introduced the Fantastic Four into the universe. Maybe a Silver Surfer solo film. Goodness knows what else. But the fact is that they plot these things so that all the pieces fall into place. Marvel are very well organized because they know fine well that their movies are going to hit big because they're marvels of themselves, if you pardon the pun. Chris it's whenever Chris feels like he's going to do it. Not at any expense whatever. There's probably even talks of maybe the Civil War 2 being made, as far as we know. And that one will probably also maybe star Chris Evans, hopefully. I don't know, I loved Captain America Civil War, I must be honest. Even if Chris does get in, there's also the problem with scheduling. Okay, bi-monthly, sometimes quarterly. Very rarely do comics go bi-weekly, one every 2 weeks, though weekly series have been more common, though infrequently. DC Comics, for example, experimented with the weekly format in the 1980s with Action Comics Weekly, an anthology which bombed and put the title on hiatus for a few months, returning to its normal Action Comics title and monthly format. 20 years later, DC has churned out a number of weekly series including 52, Countdown, Trinity, and more recently, the New 52, Future's End. All of these comics, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you right now, absolutely suck. And I've read them myself. I've had conversations with the guy likes of Linkara before. Linkara absolutely knows, fine, even for someone who's never entered the industry himself, he knows far more. He's forgotten probably more about comic books than I'll probably ever know. And I would recommend, if you want to get an example of why, you might want to check these out anyway. I know they're kind of like older videos, but they're something nonetheless. Chris, however, has no schedule. Oh, and also Linkara at least puts out one new video every single week, and he's been doing this for years. His schedule consists of whenever he has the inspiration to work. That doesn't cut it. Chris went with that alone. He would have a release schedule that would rival Rob Liefeld and Valve. Then again, Rob Liefeld is not great either. And where Liefeld, for the most part, could get away with it because he owned his company at one point, I think this is meant to be like Image Comics, I think, and people have gotten him to actually do the work. If Chris pulled this kind of stunt, he'd be out of the streets so fast his head would spin. Chris's understanding of copyright is a chapter in itself. Publishers want primarily original works, because securing the necessary rights to a publishing derivative works is often difficult or impossible. If you want like a more elaborative example, in my Screenwriter's Bible, it tells you under like, there's a whole a section on law when it comes to copyright stuff, in terms of what you can own and what you cannot own. You cannot, for example, own an idea. That's one of the biggest things they tell you from the word go. The whole point, like, even when I was having my professional creative classes in university, the objects of these classes is to understand the ins and outs of, like, if you were going to be, under suspicion of libel, and they're also designed to give you, legal advice against corporations that defy union conditions, or labor conditions, I should say. Publishers want original works because securing the necessary rights to publish derivative works is often difficult or impossible. Chris has even resisted attempts to educate himself in this regard. That's something you almost have to do if you're going to do this. On the 14th of August 2017, Chris uploaded a video where he updated the true and loyal fan base of his progress on Sonitude number 13, which he has renumbered as Sonitude 12-9, which is something that's pretty much unheard of in the comic industry, because it makes absolutely no sense why anyone would do that. He states that he decided to change the focus of the comic, instead being a crossover between the Sonitude gang and the Planet Dolan crew. It would instead be a fan fiction devoted to his pony avatar, Nightstar. Throughout the video, he mentions how he not only wants the comic to be a piece of fan fiction, well, how on earth can fan fiction be canon in a publicized comic book that Chris wants it to be? But now he also wants it to be canon to My Little Pony. That will never ever happen, where he himself would voice Nightstar. Of course, Chris doesn't seem to realize that the creators of the show can't just simply pick up his ideas because, as stated earlier, it may be led to an accusation of idea theft. Games and merchandise. Chris could approach Sega, in theory, and Nintendo, also in theory, and ask them to make Sonitude games, comics, and merchandise. This plan would also be doomed to failure from the very start, because no media companies want unsolicited ideas from the public. There are several reasons for this. Get out the popcorn, ladies and gentlemen, because I've known from what I've been told and what I've learned about this. First, it takes effort to sift through the idea piles, and they can't give an equal amount on thought of the countless ideas fans send them. While game companies may listen to their fans, this is also debatable, they usually just want to know if the game is ripe for something that they've been planning to do. For example, no doubt a big part of the reason why the newer Fire Emblem games got worldwide release was that the fans of Marth and Roy from Super Smash Bros. Melee were wondering aloud, why the hell isn't Nintendo releasing these games outside of Japan? They most certainly don't have the capability of starting a whole new game project just because someone asks. If the game companies respond by saying Chris had, as he himself so eloquently put it out, rocks in his head, then you probably wouldn't get a slice of their precious time for making a second impression. Simply put, Chris thinks that even when the companies aren't busy with other projects, they still have time to think of his grandiose ideas and those things only. Just to give you guys another little friendly example of how you can take this further, take the game Overwatch. Now, Overwatch I've been playing for years, but even I will admit there are certain things about the game seriously needs to be updated about and things that seriously need to be changed. For example, it's literally been a whole year now since we've last gotten a new character, and you would say that development for anything new, like a new map or new characters, or the return of, maps like Paris or Horizon Lunar Colony, they have been in decline for years, and Chris and Blizzard have been adding in really stupid limitations like hero pools, map pools that on the whole were projects that were doomed to failure because nobody asked for them and they abandoned the project almost from the very beginning. What I'm trying to say is that when people say that we want Blizzard to do something that's going to change the game, or at least add something that's a bit more striking, something that's more encouraging to, older players and maybe more casual players who might be picking up the game for the first time, there are numerous things that I've suggested, even to people when we've been playing the game, like for example, turn the hybrid maps like Blizzard World, Kings Row, Numbani into maybe assault maps. Maybe expand on the on locations and add just different variations of maps so that at least there's something different to check out. It doesn't seem particularly a very difficult really thing to do if you just have a bit of a generalized idea of what you think a good map would look like and how it differentiates from something else. That's just one thing. The second thing is that new characters being involved in the game has become, well, let's put it in one word, diminishing over the last several over the years, because I think it was like in 2017 they added 3 new characters, and in 2016 they added 3 new characters, so 3, then in 2018 I think they also added 3, 2019 they added 2 new characters, and then in 2020 they've added 1 new character. Now the idea is that a lot of people have said that it's because they're working on developments for Overwatch 2, and despite the fact that Blizzard has also stated that they have, ideas for 6 new characters to be added into the game, but we've heard news like that for nearly a year and a half now, and we've yet to really see anything out of this. And that's an also important thing that Blizzard needs to kind of, I imagine, understand about how fans work, is that if they keep fans in the dark far too long about something, I mean, when was the last time we've really got any interesting sort of like developer updates from the man Jeff himself? There's many things that just people want answers to, like we want more stuff that's going to invest more interest, because if Overwatch 2 doesn't deliver on this, then what is Blizzard gonna do? Because if Blizzard wants, to keep, their Overwatch titles in games, interesting at all, they ought to start by, in my opinion, adding more things that might actually make wanted people play the game, not by silly restrictions that wouldn't even be tolerated in a FIFA title. Second, there is an age-old problem in a litigious society. A fan writes to the company and says, "I have this cool idea." The company says, "Thanks, but no thanks." One of the in-house writers comes up with that exactly the same idea by accident, and boom, you have a fan who's suing you for idea theft. And even if that lawsuit will usually go nowhere, it wastes perfectly usable time, energy, and most of all money that could be used for more fruitful ventures. A famous example is British novelist Terry Pratchett, who used a post in his Usenet fan group until one of the fans was convinced Terry had stolen his ideas. Therefore, most media houses will just say that they will not take any ideas from the public. The game industry is not an exception. This fact has been pointed out to Chris numerous times and at least twice by real Nintendo representatives, as evidenced by the letters he has read in the captain's logs. Unfortunately, Chris misinterpreted all of this. Another thing that Chris disregards is the fact that writing games takes a lot of effort. In Thomas Edison's words, getting things done is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Many good ideas don't get implemented. No one is going to invest energy in developing an idea if they don't know if the idea can be implemented. Game companies may be willing to negotiate, for example, a deal to use their properties, such as characters, in games developed by third parties, but those proposals are usually backed up by real companies, actual creative teams of developers, and serious complete plans for games, if not outright working prototypes already. Even in the case the properties are tacked on the prototype later on. The prototypes are usually fully developed so they can be used without those properties. If the plans fall through, example Star Fox Adventures began as a game that was completely unrelated to Star Fox universe, but Nintendo felt the game was better with the SF characters. Theoretically, it would be possible, though extraordinarily unlikely, for Sega and Nintendo to cooperate enough to make a game featuring Sonic/Pikachu hybrid named Sonichu. They would not, however, need any input from Chris or even his permission to combine characters that they want from their own. Think about it. Of course, the idea of releasing it cross-platform for Sony consoles remains yet another absurd and feathered dream on the part of Chris. In the Sonichu Chronicles, he gives Shigeru Miyamoto permission to use the cover to his hand-drawn Nintendo Power magazine as the inevitable cover for when the game is created, even though it's several years old, and in fact even worse than Chris's current skill at art. And we'll go over these basically in due time, because right now, ladies and gentlemen, what I want everyone to take away from this article, if there is anything to disclose entirely, is that Chris goes into things with his heart in his breast, but fortunately he left his brain at home. And as you probably may have worked out, this leads to the fact that should Chris really get anything published, he doesn't think things through because of his work ethic and also the reputation he has round his neck. But that being said, however, if Chris really did want to decide to take himself seriously, then it might be already far too late. Because, as I pointed out earlier, his Patreons are now down to just $100 a month. I am honestly going to say it might not be long before we get the second part of the financial crisis, because I reckon it won't be long before time starts catching up to Chris if he doesn't apply himself seriously soon. I've said this before, but it will become more obvious, especially if he wants to dedicate all his time to preaching about the dimensional merge. If that's what he wants to spend his time doing rather than, making himself successful, then that's his business. I'll get along with trying to make myself successful regardless. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video of Chris and business. Please make sure to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys thought of the article for yourself. Please also make sure to also like and subscribe to get daily notifications when my videos come out. And I hope to love you guys again in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye for now.